and justice for all.
You guys can't look at the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second that approval.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Approve amended fireworks permit for,
Yep, you got that right
Yeah.
here.
okay,
Must be changing the date from one of the previous ones.
okay. You guys look at it.
What's the date of this?
May 22nd.
Next week.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah. I'd make the motion that we approve Charles Yedlick's fireworks permit for May 22nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 6, I can talk about that. Craig Streeter had called and he talked to the cruise committee. He wants to do a 911 anniversary celebration thing around the flagpole between 11 and 12 on that Saturday of the cruise. Do you want him to fill out a separate form, or the cruise committee's already told him it was okay, since they had permission, but I said I'd bring it before you guys. They're just gonna like do a little dedication
So
stuff.
is it gonna be part of the, he's not part of the
No,
cruise.
he's not part of the cruise committee. He's doing it on behalf of veterans, I believe. They want to come around the flagpole.
I think it would be wise to
Okay.
fill out.
So do you guys want to formally approve it today, and then I'll get his form from him?
Sure.
Okay.
And I'd make that motion that we approve it, subject to appropriate paperwork.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor of approving Craig Streeter's?
Aye.
Aye. Couple minutes yet. Approve cigarette permit for Kim's Mini Mart.
Yep, that one's right there.
So moved.
Okay.
Well, I'll second it.
All right. All in favor of approving cigarette permit for Kim's Mini Mart?
Aye.
Aye.
It's an annual thing we do with them, so.
We probably still have time for this amendment, but I have to.
Yep.
So it's for that CPPC and DCAT, which you know we have a new representative that, when that Braxton kid left. So what this is amending is so that they can get that allocation from his salary that wasn't used because of the overlap where we didn't have a coordinator.
Okay.
So the state has the format. It's not gonna affect the Benton County spending authority, but it will affect the amount that they pay us. So I have to have that formally approved and signed, and you can look at that.
Okay.
And it's an amount of, a huge amount, it says it on there.
Contractor shall be reimbursed $12,260.
Yep, but it's broken down
Contractor will
into,
reimburse $1,800.
So you need a motion to approve DCAT 4-21-024 amendment?
Yep, we've had a few of them already.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are we in the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Barb.
I'd like to set a land use hearing for Trail and Rhonda Price for Tuesday, June 15th at 9:15.
When did we set the one last week? What time? I don't have it in my notes with me.
It's the 22nd, wasn't it? Hold on.
That's okay. Don't worry. It's in the minutes. Never mind.
June 8th.
Oh, it's June
Oh,
8th.
okay.
It's for Pritchard,
Mhm.
Pritchard. Yeah, that's June 8th.
Right, I didn't know if there was two of them coming at the same
No.
time or not. Okay. You'll make the motion?
So moved.
Second.
You got it.
Sent last. All in favor of setting land use hearing for Terrell and Rhonda Price?
Aye.
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 You seconded that?
No,
No, he did. I didn't hear it.
Gary started. Rick.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Barb. Have a good day.
I gave him, do you want to talk on that, or are you coming back with the mask today?
No, I'm not.
I gave him that printout you had.
And I gave you the printout,
Here.
which I think speaks for itself.
I'm the middleman, so I'm giving it back to you.
But I think that that's what the CDC has said for our guidelines, but for all those that are vaccinated, so I don't see where there should be a problem.
Okay. Take it under advisement.
Or we could just do personal responsibility, you know, everybody,
Yeah, right. I
Responsible
know that
for themselves.
everybody's like that, yeah.
you know. Thank you, nice to see you.
Is that for mask usage and?
Yeah, 10 o'clock. She's jumping the gun.
Well, I didn't know she was coming back, so she gave me something, so
Okay.
instead of being the middle person, I'm giving it to
Okay.
you.
Adam will be here, so.
Good morning.
I guess after Adam, if it don't take too long, we might let you slip in. Like,
Oh, yeah.
that way she don't have to sit here all morning.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, we're just gonna wait, we'll wait till Adam's gonna come here in a minute.
Oh, okay.
We'll start with his.
I'm pretty flexible too, so no.
You should have time after him, I hope.
It won't take very long.
Good morning. How are you this fine day?
What's that?
How are you this fine day?
Oh, not
Tried
too
to
bad.
answer
You?
that.
You know,
Great.
this type of rain could last all day.
I think it might.
It's just soaking right.
Where's that?
Thank you.
We don't have to look through all that.
I got him.
Where's that? Do you need one of these?
It's what you emailed.
Well, something. So, simplifies it.
Yep.
Hey, Adam, you're up.
Second. All right, so, last week we had our bid opening for our project we were advertising earlier, or later last month, early this month. It was Thursday morning at 11, just as a reminder. We were advertising for 3 contracts of projects. 3 ponds in 1 contract, the city of Benton Wetland on contract 2, and then an Iowa DOT project just west of town for schedule 3 with an estimated project cost of $1.1 million. We received a pretty good response from bids, so I gave you a summary sheet of all the bids in order from low to high for each schedule. You will note that there is an asterisk on each table. There were some technicalities in 2 of the contractors' bid submissions. Hatch Grading and Contracting did not have their bidder status form on any of their contracts. And then Laser Precision in Schedule 3 did not submit their bid in an envelope, a sealed envelope, did not have an addendum recognized, and their bid bond was handed in a couple minutes after the opening started. Did not affect anyone's bid, but just know that those were technicalities as notified in the bid announcement, which I emailed you guys last night. I do have copies of them if you want to read through it. Minor details, like I said, it did not impact the overall bid price. Based off the results on the second page of the summary sheet I gave you, Schedule 1 and 2, Schrader Tiling and Terrain was the low bid for each of those contracts. The associated dollar amount, Schedule 1, $404,889.80. Schedule 2, $268,491.10. Schedule 3, both Hatch and Laser Precision were the 2 low bids. As you can see on the table, after talking with the county attorney and other past projects with the county, the board here, you have the right to waive these minor technicalities and accept the bid. I do have Laser Precision on there as the recommended contractor for their bid amount at $189,865.04, pending you waive, or the board waives the technicalities of the bid. If you choose not to, accept those bids and go with the next lowest bidder, which would be Schrader Tiling and Terrain at $257,026.25. That's a difference of $67,000 and some change, which puts our total budget at about $930,000 for this contract round. Our remaining budget for the entire project is just a few dollars under $1 million for the remainder of the year. So that puts us a little tighter as far as budget constraints. There are some match dollars coming in from the state as well as the federal EPA grant that we have signed with the Flood Center. So I know I emailed you guys some notes, but after discussion with the county attorney on these technicalities, since it's not going to impact the overall bid, if you choose to waive the technicalities and accept the bids, that's what the dollar amount would be for Schedule 3.
I would move that we waive the technicalities.
I'll second that.
The 3 things that he was late on was, one was the envelope not being sealed.
Yep, was not in a sealed envelope. The addendum number 2 did have, we had an error in the bid on wage rate requirements, where the wage rates were put in there too high. And so technically his bid could have been lower, but I don't think that impacted, Louis sitting here, I don't think that impacted his bid at all. If it would have been vice versa, it would have impacted the bid. But, and then the bid bond that's required was handed in a few minutes late. But he did have it, he was here. So there's a little sloppiness on submission.
And no discrepancies with Schedule 2 or Schedule 1.
The only discrepancies was Hatch Grading didn't have a bid of status form, but it did not impact the outcome of that, of those 2 schedules.
Okay.
And we checked all bid prices from each contractor. That's the sheet I didn't get till late afternoon yesterday, so there was one math error, but it didn't impact the outcome of any of these schedules, so, from a different contractor.
So Rick, you made a motion?
No, Gary did, and I seconded, but do you want this in two motions, one on the technicalities and the other on the
So the
bids?
motion right now is to waive technicalities and accept all bids.
Okay, all right.
All in favor of waiving the technicalities?
Aye.
Aye.
And then need a motion for to
Accepting.
move and approve to contract with Schrader Tiling and Terrain on Schedule 1 and 2 for the associated dollar amount on the sheet, and then also Laser Precision and the associated dollar amount on the back of the sheet. So there's 3 separate contracts that will need to be signed and approved by you.
Okay, to do all in one motion.
I think so.
Yeah,
All right, then I'd make that motion that we accept the low bid on all 3 of those scheduled contracts
And move to contract with.
and move to contract with those individuals or those companies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right,
And we will have a pre-construction meeting probably in the next week or 2. And Tracy, you've been attending those, that's where we'll have the contract signed.
Just let me know.
Yep, so, as soon as we get it scheduled, I'll send you an email. But all these projects are set to be completed by on or before December 15th of this year, so. Shouldn't be a problem, but we'll want to get them started as soon as we can.
Question.
Yep.
Let's say we have bad weather, or for some reason they can't kill them by the, I believe it's 12th,
December 15th.
December 15th, okay.
Yeah, that's 6-7 months from now, so should be ample amount of time to do these projects. Unless there is major weather conditions that prevent a long period of time of no work, but if that is the case, I'm pretty sure the state would extend the deadline into next year to allow for.
The extra dirt that's south of town here,
As far as I'm aware, that's gonna be taken care of by Boomerang Corporation. I have an email from their project manager that says they're gonna have that removed by the end of the month
okay, and then what they're digging out is gonna end up over here?
at the Braille School.
Yeah,
Yep, that's the intended plan.
okay,
The extra dirt that's there, if it's not removed, the city agreed to be billed and paid for.
okay.
by the project.
WMA, they don't have to flip the bill, they're probably gonna scrape the black dirt away from over here, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna put spoil, they have to scrape it away and topsoil all spoil so it can seed it down.
Cause I was told last week that black dirt's 4 foot deep there, that's why they did not.
It might be, we didn't do soil borings there, but we only require a minimum of 4 inches of coverage for seeding.
Okay, okay,
So, but that is required for seeding
okay.
of that site, which we have in our bid, so.
you're talking about the one coming in on 218?
Yeah. They scraped a bunch of dirt off here a
I
couple
noticed
weeks
that
ago,
the
and
other
they were originally gonna haul some of that clay over here, and they never could not get
Well, I
down
remember that was the one
to
that was
clay.
on Hall. Okay.
So, all right, sounds good, Adam.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. 9:55 is the closest one.
Yeah.
Okay, Sammy,
Yeah, let me do it.
I'll let you go.
All right. First of all, I just want to thank you all again for your time and listening to my presentation last week. Gary brought up a great point last week about the IUD as it pertains to if Energy or NextEra have filed for any projects in Benton County. I just wanted to give you guys an update that I did get in touch with them. And as of Friday, neither Energy or NextEra have submitted any requests with the IUB for Benton County. As we discussed last week, NextEra has for Lynn County, but in our county there has been no requests at all. So I wanted to give you that update and just commit to keeping in touch with them on if or when they do. I'll make sure to communicate that with you. I also wanted to give you an update that my efforts on just spreading awareness of the proposed project in the county. I did start a petition just to solely spread awareness, will be the only goal with that. And the petition is just written around supporting and upholding that ag land use ordinance that is in place in Benton County. And so far, the word is spreading, and we do have 460 signatures in just a couple of weeks. So I just wanted to give you that update that of my efforts and the community's efforts really in spreading the word on this proposed project. So there is support in that from more than just us that showed up last week. And I also just wanted to let you know that I have been speaking with a lot of different people in the community across the state, and I've met some real experts on a few different topics. So if there was anything that you were interested in learning more about from someone that was a real expert in the topic, on whether that's the contract verbiage or environment or a landowner that could be affected, I do have a few contacts that I think could be useful if you're interested in hearing someone other than myself. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there as an update, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew that there were quite a few people in the community that do support the message that I gave last week. So that's all I had today.
Have you done any research on the decommissioning of solar panels?
I have done a little bit of research. I have a few contacts across I've got one in New York and some other people that have been involved in these large utility scale projects that firsthand know a little bit more. But I do have quite a bit of information on that, articles and things like that. And I guess that would be another question. If you are interested in seeing what I have, what would be the best way in communicating that to you? Would it be email, or I don't have anything here today, but I can surely share everything that I have or contacts that I have. Is that something you're interested in seeing here?
Well, I think it's important I don't necessarily need to see it, but they need to have something in the contracts for decommissioning. I think that it's very expensive to get rid of that stuff. And I think there's a lot of folks in our area that have put these up on their roof or put different solar panels up that never even considered decommissioning or taking them out or what they're gonna do with them after they're done.
We have not seen a copy of the contract yet, but we've talked to someone that did. And supposedly it is the responsibility of the homeowner to return it to its original state, not the solar project people. I haven't seen it, so I can't verify that, but
That's what I figured. They're gonna probably just walk.
And so this is Steve and Laura. I met them yesterday via phone. So I'm assuming you're Steve and Laura.
yes.
We live within the notification area. We live in Benton County, right on the Lynn-Benton County line. And we're in the notification area, which is within 1,000 feet of the proposed project. So we have 20 people living in our neighborhood. One lives in Lynn County, 12 live within the notification zone, and 8 live outside the notification zone. So I did some research about housing values and property values associated with solar farms. There's a September 2020 study done by the University of Rhode Island in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and it encompassed 207 solar farms in that area. And they looked at home prices within 3 miles of these solar farms, and there were almost, over several years, and there were almost 300,000 home sales within 3 miles. They used 3 miles as a control group, and then they looked at 0 to 1 mile. And at 1 mile, you lose 1.7% of your property value. At a tenth of a mile, which 12 of the houses in our subdivision would be, if they put it right to the line, you lose 7% of your home value. Now, the 20 homes in our neighborhood, if you take the average home value is about $325,000, which is the median value in this study. So it's an apples to apples type comparison. If you take that, our little neighborhood would lose approximately between $275,000 and $300,000 in property value. And that's middle class wealth is a large portion of that is your property value. So it is a significant hardship, if you want to look at it that way, to the people who live near this solar farm. And I have a copy of the, do you have a copy? Did you print out the study?
No. she
Oh, no,
We
I
gave
thought it
ours
was at the agenda.
didn't. Somebody
Okay,
else.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I can send you, I think I have your email. I can send you all a copy of that study, so that if this does come up, you can use that as a data point for consideration with the project. And that's all I really wanted to say today.
I have something I would like to say, if that's okay. We received a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know, have any of you seen what NextEra sent the homeowners that were notified?
And it's kind of confusing because there's the NextEra side and then the energy side. So the NextEra side is more so the Benton County and New Energy.
They sent a PowerPoint presentation, and there's a project manager identified. They sent the docket information for filing with the IUB. And then they said who they had already contacted, but if you look through it, it says they only need 3,500 acres to put up a 690 megawatt solar farm. Well, we did the math. To get exactly 690, and there is one in Nevada that's under construction, they need 7,000 acres. So where is the rest of the land coming from?
Yeah, that's what.
Even though the map that they identified for us, if each block on there is a square mile, there's like 24 square miles they could choose from. But everything we see in writing from them says 3,500 acres. And it's not enough to do what they want to do. So we feel misled. I don't know how else to explain.
So, yeah.
Is it coming over here? Is like, because there's lots of farms just over, right?
There's still a lot of unknowns. I think what I want you guys to know that these concerns are from many different people in the community and not just us. That's why it was good for Steve and Laura to express their concerns, even though they're kind of on that border of both Lynn County and Benton County.
Mhm.
They are two different companies sort of soliciting the land in each county, but it's all based on that transmission line, so it's sort of connected. It's kind of fuzzy there right on the line, but these are the kinds of concerns that I'm hearing from residents on the Benton County side. They are Benton County residents, and Lynn County side alike. So just wanted to give you an update on the IUB, that the awareness is spreading, that these concerns are.
I don't know how you would go about it, but there's places down in Texas where there's decommissioned solar panels and they're just there.
Right.
There's pictures everywhere on the internet of dead solar farms. Doesn't take much to find it.
Right. And I know last week, Mark and you guys, we talked a lot about that ordinance, the Ag Land Protection Ordinance that we have, and then that would, protect this land from being rezoned. And I don't want to keep bugging you with this by any means, but I do believe that the pressure is going to grow, so I just want to make sure I keep you updated on what I learned throughout and bring more, other perspectives to you if you're open to that.
I guess I have no problem, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I hear what you guys are coming from, I think you know how I feel
Yep.
about it, so.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening again. And if there's, I'll share what I know as the pressure might grow, or maybe it won't. I'm also, pretty active on the Lynn County side of things and helping organize their concerns with their board of supervisors over there. So I'm kind of getting both sides of it, and if you ever hear anything, I've asked if you hear anything, just let me know too, so I can try to do what I can to keep, my connections informed as well. So
Sure.
I appreciate everything and listening to me again today.
No problem.
Yeah.
Two more things. Who has the ultimate authority to allow the solar project to use land? Is it the Board of Supervisors, or would it be the Iowa Utilities Board and the state?
The way I get it, they can override us.
That's what I thought.
The utility board or the state or both? The Iowa Utility Board could override you?
Utility board, yes.
Um, They keep saying they're not gonna use eminent domain, but that was leading to my question is, who has the ultimate authority? So, and we have received word from the Iowa Utilities Board because we filed the formal objections. There will be public information meetings. If you've ever filed with the IUB, you can see who actually else has filed. So there are now a number of people that have filed saying, please do not allow them to waive the public information meeting. So there will be, I think there's 2 currently set up. May 20-something and then June 2nd.
Yeah, the first one's on May 25th.
The only other thing I have to offer is I worked for Dwayne Arnold for 30 years, and I worked in the nuclear industry for 30 years, and plus the Navy. And I was assistant engineer for the switchyard and the transmission system for several years. If there's any questions that you guys come up with, I will send you my email with that solar thing, and I'd be glad to try to find the answers for you.
Okay. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Understand?
There probably won't be any further discussion on this issue.
They wasn't
No,
on the
no,
agenda,
it's
so
not
they
on the
really
agenda.
can't.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Do you know if the IUB meetings are public as well? I wonder if that's something I should be looking into.
I think
I
it's a
would
board, they'd
imagine.
have to have minutes somewhere.
Yeah.
Morning, Chair.
Do you wanna talk about my amending service areas?
Well, sure.
Okay, because I'm gonna do that by resolution, but I'm still tweaking and I was waiting to talk to Ron too. So I'll have,
Well, is it?
yep, but it has to be done by resolution. So like with the HR department we're creating, there was nothing budgeted for that, so we created a Department 50. So I'm gonna have to move spending authority somewhere to allow spending for that department, because they wanna get furniture and all that set up. So I gotta find it from other areas where we have spending authority. And then I talked with Sarah yesterday, the EFSP money that she gets by grant. You know, 2 years ago, she didn't use it, so she didn't budget for any spending. Well, she spent on that fund. So she come in yesterday, so I'm gonna take out of her Department 19 general sub and put it into 0070 to cover that negative. And then I was gonna talk to you on your forfeiture fund, Fund 90, because you didn't have any spending authority either. And I think you paid, what was the amount, 11 something?
I gotta write another check out of there.
Yeah, and you have no spending authority. So we gotta find it somewhere else to move into yours. So, I was waiting, I knew I had to put it on here because it needs to be done before the next claim run. So I will get that information, and if you wanna wait and approve the resolutions next week, that's fine, or if you wanna approve it and then when it's in the minutes. So, those are my big problem areas right now, because we're getting towards the end of our fiscal year.
I'd say we ought to approve it.
I think we ought to just get it done.
Yeah.
Well, I can email you those ahead of time too, the resolution. So what I'll do is I'll describe the line items, what fund, function.
Can we
The
go ahead
amounts.
and make that motion to approve doing that now?
If you want.
I think that is smart.
Okay, and it'll be by
Second.
resolution.
Go by resolution.
Yep.
That's fine, you still gotta make the motion and go through it.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you second that?
Yes, I did.
I wasn't sure I made the motion, but that's okay.
So, you and I have to go over yours a little more, but we'll get it figured out.
It's by resolution, so
Yeah.
Primer
One
aye.
is two,
Beershank aye.
Theme and I.
two big line items by a long ways in my budget,
Not handy
Yeah.
having spending
Ours
authority,
sometimes
sounds like when I
yes,
take the checkbook.
And Robin from FEMA too, did you see that
My
email?
wife lets me know, I didn't have the
Yesterday.
authority for that.
but, no,
She's still on that other vehicle. Because the invoice was marked at county. That's before the duration.
that was just for the cost.
Okay, oh,
Of the
so that's why, so that Gail is questioning it too. I will let Nancy know that, but.
Yep.
Because that's where he halted when he saw that,
Gotcha.
but that makes sense.
No, that was the same equipment.
On
That
item
was the
14, I
current
did not
prices.
have any reports.
Okay. I can jump on that if they're done. You get that? Gary made a motion, Rick seconded it? Okay, you got it. All right, no problem. Gary, you got any reports?
The state legislature is messing around with the monies that we're getting for the mental health. And
There's a surprise for you.
yeah. So they're probably talking about it right now as I speak, but whatever. We'll have to deal with it in the future. It's a mess. Because they've got, our area does really good with the money, and some other areas don't do nearly as well. So the way it looks, we're gonna have extra money in our area, a bunch,
From our region,
yeah,
not specific to Benton County,
right.
yeah.
And some other areas are gonna be short or whatever, so we'll just have to wait and see how it all works out.
Okay. Had emergency management meeting last Tuesday night. We had a joint meeting with Lynn County and us over the sirens. I got a copy of the proposal that Dwayne Arnold, I kind of voiced my opinion on it, I guess. I don't agree with it, but anyway, they offered all the sirens to Lynn County. In return, Lynn County, and they evidently haven't talked that much about what they're gonna do. You know, we discussed this a year ago.
Yeah.
We had the input from the fire departments, from all the cities and everything. You know, we're ahead, I guess, what I feel.
Way ahead.
Yeah, so they just had their vote Tuesday night in front of us, and they voted to accept it. But they don't know what they're gonna do with them either, because they haven't got a price on maintaining them. Some of them on the board wanna maintain them, you know, and everything, but basically they're gonna give us the 34 that are in Benton County right now. And of course, we have Urbana, Sheldsburg, and Atkins are interested in the sirens that are in their communities to keep them, so. That was the big discussion between them, but here's the letter from Dwayne Arnold.
Waiting to be sorted out
If
yet.
Dana shuts down, it's gonna be a
Because-
message that it's.
Yeah,
hot.
more or less.
Now,
Because if they're giving them all to Lynn County, then Lynn County's gonna have to do something in writing to give back to Benton County.
Correct.
Mhm.
I made kind of the comment that, well, if it's Lynn County, we'll give you 24 hours to get them out of here.
And Scott's got a plan in place of how to.
Sure.
so let's say Atkins and all these other towns end up with these sirens. They're gonna maintain them, everything's,
That'll be their siren for their town.
so we're done with them.
Yeah.
Is it vacation day, Ron?
Yeah, kinda. Not really, but. Hot.
No, it says the camera's hot, but it doesn't feel hot, so if it shuts off, that's why.
That's what you got
It's
there.
done that before.
Technical
The
difficulties.
old boardroom that did that. Now you got it over again. A little bit technical difficulty.
So there's no action we need to take on it.
FYI. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it is. But I just thought it was kind of funny that, we were on the ball, we discussed it, and then turn around, they get the gift. We get the wrappers after it's all done, so.
Geez, that's been a year ago since I went to that meeting with you. I mean, must not be a big item on their agenda.
I don't know, the estimated value of the items is approximately $1 million.
Yeah. Dwayne Arnold is giving them away and they're putting the value on them.
Well, Dwayne Arnold is, I'm sure that's tax.
That's what they'll get
Boy,
out
so,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah, and then on a side note, which I informed, I after this got all said and done, Glenn County got off the Zoom meeting, so it was just, the guy, the director of Dwayne Arnold. So wanted to know if anybody had any questions, so I rattled his changed about the solar. What we've been hearing from Sam here. And he said Dwayne Arnold's 500 acres. That's what Dwayne Arnold owns up there. And then half of it's the nuclear side, 250 acres, and the other half is farm ground. And that's what they're planning on putting the solar on, this 250 acres on south of the plant, I guess, south of the gravel road. So,
Ain't enough.
yeah, so I mean, they want 3,500 acres, and well, they only got 250 here for Dwayne Arnold, That was such a nice article in the Gazette here a couple weeks ago, it looks so good, so. But enough of that.
And their estimate of acres or what they need for the solar panels is way too low.
We took care of amended services.
Yeah, I think you're up to speed now.
Pretty well reports and committees.
I think we're just waiting for the clocks to tick.
And I did just forward you guys something on that American Relief Fund.
I read it already.
Okay. That's all I know right now, so.
Mhm. And I don't believe we need to hire a company to help spend it.
No, trust me, I get solicited daily with emails and this or that. They want us
Isn't
to
that crazy?
hurt because they know we're all getting this free money and they want you to buy this or that.
You can hire us
Yeah.
to help you
Spend that money.
spend this money.
The girls are getting better at screening those calls for me.
Sure you don't need another employee to screen the calls?
Next time I did sit through and watch a demonstration the other day, which we did ask for a quote on. They come in and they'll scan the old supervisor books, like old, like from the start. And then he puts it in and on a web base and it's searchable, same with old transfer books. So we'd have a backup if there were a fire or anything. And it's fairly a cheap quote. Her and I both like it. So we're gonna see about that. But
Do they come?
they'll come into our office and
Okay.
actually take what we have. We've already started that process ourselves, like you can see Gina's thumb and all the pictures. Her thumb will be famous, but, so I have a lot of PDFs on some of those old books. And if they can implement that into a searchable, and I talked with Ben, they'll house it outsource it, so it's not on our servers, and then they'll give us a backup too. There's a bunch of counties that are already doing that, which is a backup plan anyway, but, so that's part of that
I
money,
guess
and
that
it
was
can be
my,
used.
yeah, my question was that when they come in here to copy it, they do it inside the building?
Yeah, they not leave with our books.
Okay,
Nope,
perfect.
they stay right there in house.
Perfect.
Yep. So that is something I think would be a good investment, because it's our history of it, Benton County.
Well, Sheriff, how's things going in the county?
Say things are going well. We're bringing in more people that need to get their time served in the jail, so our population's up a little bit. We're still maintaining areas to quarantine if needed.
You guys check them, the new inmates as they come in too,
We run them through a screen, but we
but
don't,
they don't actually do the rapid tests or anything.
you know. We have offered the folks in there COVID testing or COVID vaccine. So far, we don't have anybody that wants it.
Nothing like being sick in the comforts of home. It would not be fun.
How full is the jail?
24, 25.
It's good workable number, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's a workable number.
Did you start digging up ground over there for the parking lot? Or what is that pile? Has that always been there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just really noticed it the other day.
Mm-hmm. I just haven't had time.
Well,
I started siding. I got one
why is
project
it
done
up to
and,
you to move it?
yeah,
How are you gonna move it all?
I'm gonna borrow Myron's equipment.
Let's not talk pride. No. La, 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 la.
With regard to that, they put up barriers this morning.
They didn't get it done last night?
I don't know.
Okay.
I went down to the gas station and looked, and I couldn't see them, but they didn't put up big ones. They put up these little,
Whatever.
Yeah.
Or if there's something there. I talked to everybody on that last night, so.
I probably would have missed them, you know, because I can't see a mile very good.
I know Wednesday I had to go down to Case IH and get some parts that was ordered and come in there. And then last minute, I looked at my son and I said, let's go up the dirt road and we'll pick up the 2 pickup loads of junk that somebody deposited before
Oh.
winter. So we picked that up, threw that in the back of the pickup, we went to the landfill. Well, then the barricades that they got on the Hannon Lake Road, you know, after we got done, I haven't seen the wood chips since they're done, and so I went around that way, but, he only has one barricade that's got 4 legs.
Well, that changes throughout the day.
The rest of the barricades are nothing but splinters.
Speaking of wood chips, see the landfill is utilizing them. Are they getting paid to bring those in?
$10 a ton from FEMA. They got their first payment here the month of April, maybe end of March.
Okay,
First payment, and that was $65,000.
how does that compare to what Boomerang was doing? Tonnage-wise,
You know, I
per ton?
could not tell you. Cause they're going by Boomerang was cubic yard,
Okay,
and we're just going by weight,
all right.
is what we did, and of course, that's cheap. You know, then to come to find out, it's perfect for when it gets muddy. As long as if there's a base and it's just greasy, you put the wood chips down, saves on gravel,
Oh, yeah.
you know. So, I mean, it's working out that way, but,
Yeah.
They still had to buy gravel, of course, here this spring when the frost went out, but,
No, I'm impressed with it.
Yeah.
You know, down there,
yeah.
not to mention it decomposes.
It's cover crop too, that they don't have to put so much dirt.
Right, right. Yep.
And the DNR is okay with that, so.
Yep. But I didn't see huge mounds of it, unless that was over the bank.
They got, technically they got 3 piles. They had the one pile to where the actually landfill or burying stuff, and I haven't been down there. I was down there Wednesday, but I didn't get down to there. I went around the back side of it. They had a pile where they were putting the garbage at, using that. I bet they got that used up. But the major pile is back to the straight south. When you come in from the scale, if you drive straight south,
Okay.
okay, from inside the landfill, it don't look like much. But if you get on the Hannah Lake Road and go down towards Hannah Lake, and when you get in the hollow, turn around and look back up that side hill, I bet it's 30 foot deep, because they started off, you know, on the side hill dumping it, and then when they got up to where it's flat on top of the hill, they just used the dozer to keep shoving it down over the hill. So, I mean, you look at it, it don't look like it's that thick, but when you drive around the back side of it, it's 30 foot straight up and down. And that's nothing but wood chips from the cities.
As long as it doesn't start spontaneous combustion, because it's not compacted.
Right.
I'll tell you a story about that.
Oh.
So that would be a
Clayton
concern.
County's
Right.
just going.
It's already burned.
She's the one that sent me that.
You go down along
I told him we were.
380 into Cedar Rapids with that pile just outside of Cedar
Oh,
Rapids
that's
in
good,
Benton
thank
County.
you. You were thinking of me.
And it smokes quite often, so, and you can smell it burning. Just be a concern.
Mhm.
The watershed is.
Oh, I'll bet.
Hopefully it lights up on Friday about 4 o'clock.
What's that?
Richard.
Lights up on Friday about 4. They
It's a
don't
whole
find it
building.
anymore.
He's not as
Yeah.
rough as he tries to
gone by
make
then.
himself out to be.
Oh, no.
All right.
Good morning.
Oh, Scott.
Getting heckled by security out there.
Every step.
I made him walk all the way down the hall.
I know.
They already
He
did- they already give you a button.
gets his workout on Tuesdays. What did he say he got for steps last week? He keeps track too.
Oh, yeah, he does.
They told him he had to buy new carpet because he's wearing a pad.
Oh, okay. He told me it was a little early to be here for his lunch break.
Surprised he didn't get an electric scooter for running back and forth, right?
One that you have to stand on though, right? Not to sit down.
Oh, now that
Chips are
is
real
Those
good.
kids ones that you can
Did they
stand.
ever address that
And we
at
probably
all?
have a workman's comp claim.
They say it's not.
Well, I got news for them.
And I never drove in there or walked in there, nothing.
They're lying.
She's in the parking lot.
I never drove over there.
She's staying a block ahead of me.
They got all the REC poles replaced there at Hannah Lake.
Wheels on
Yeah,
it. I
I was
did
running
not
the
like that.
delinquent list and I found it.
Not for a
So
61-year-old.
it's for this,
No.
they're due, but
I need
for,
one with 4 wheels.
There-
I'd be
I'll
lying.
make sure I
Yeah.
have one paper, but.
Okay,
just,
Nine,
when you just
10,
get back,
but
just
if
give me
you-
that list of the numbers.
everybody in the country knows.
You know,
What
I
happened
couldn't
was
understand
the
that,
ones
you know,
that-
we own the poles,
When I
it's
did the
on
checks,
So they get
you know, I had to
emails
sign
from
the check.
property, you know what I mean?
People.
Yeah,
REC
paid.
replaced
Yep,
it.
I've gotten some
Right.
already too, yes.
I hopefully, I
Mhm.
have to see if Larry got a marked.
The Highlights just come over all the different campsites, and then they get the
Hopefully.
transformer, and then it comes down the pole, and
I'm trying to figure out how to run the delinquent tax list for the paper, that's my next.
There will be government.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were gonna replace the hookups with higher voltage.
yeah, they've been doing it off and on here the last 2 years or so. Good morning, Mr. Thompson.
Ready?
Just messing with you, Gary. Good morning.
Just as
I'm
well.
supposed to be in school. I get asked that a lot, actually. I could get you to quote me on that if you want. Newsflash, this news editor is secretly a high school student at this time. Homeschool.
Would fit right in it.
It's better than looking old and having gray hair.
I'll take that.
He went
You'll
undercover
get there eventually.
in school.
Oh,
Maybe a little bit later.
I'm thinking of old Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, wasn't he undercover?
I was youthful looking once.
Please, do.
Out of curiosity, who got the bid for the watershed projects?
There was 3 of them.
3 lowest ones.
Schrader got 2 and Laser Precision got 1.
I think the third thing you didn't mean to give me.
Oh, the agenda copy?
No. Let you guys look at that. You can go ahead and explain.
That's not that note I wrote about you, is it? Questions from. I only grabbed the folder because it was handy and raining.
Okay, Mr. Thompson, you can explain what we're gonna do now with Easy Cog and a deed.
Pursuant to your agreement with EasyCog for the new transportation building, we, in exchange for their funding source through the grant program, are required to deed the building over to them, and then we lease it back. You folks have previously signed the lease. This is the deed their attorney prepared. And it needs to be signed by Tracy and by Haley, and it also, your signatures need to be notarized. So I don't know if you have a notary over here.
I can see if Nancy can grab her, and just come.
I am, but I didn't mark it.
But I think you can notarize things without having a seal.
I have it.
She's coming over anyway.
And that's what that is, and you know, that was part of the deal from day one, so I don't see it as anything controversial.
Hi, Judy. Oh, you can sit wherever.
So you need a motion to authorize the chairman to sign that warranty deed. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah, we'll sign it when Nancy gets in.
Sure.
Okay.
That includes the ground?
Yep.
Just the,
Just what it's sitting on,
yeah, it's basically just the building.
because then don't we have to pay him back $1 a month or something?
It's
Well,
$700 in there. so-
Well, it was gonna be $1 a month for so many years after we lease it back.
We lease it for, I didn't bring that part of it over, but I believe the deal is, we're supposed to maintain it in accordance to the EasyCog rules, so to speak, transportation rules, for 30 years.
Correct.
And then at the end of that time period, they deed it back to Benton County.
Correct. Yep.
Since Judy's here, with that, do we still cover insurance on that if we're gonna be leasing the building?
What are we talking about?
The transportation building?
Yeah, is it titled to you, but you're
It-
leasing it?
Well, it's gonna be titled with EasyCog now,
Okay,
but we're gonna lease it.
depends on what your leasing agreement says.
Okay, I'll share that with you.
I'm sure we would.
That's what I thought too.
Mhm.
As long as the leasing agreement requires it, then that's no problem.
I don't remember what it says on
I
that.
don't remember, I have to look.
It's got our vehicles in it.
That's the old one. We're talking new.
That warranty deed indicated for a $10 consideration. So I presume that's just for that portion, not the actual lease. Running rain all the way? It's not all bad.
You know, I haven't been here for 2 years, and I do the GPS just to make sure there's no like traffic hiccup. And so I'm watching the GPS and it has me turning right, and I'm thinking, what? So I didn't realize that your little flyover was done.
Huh.
Did they move it?
after we have moved from our old supervisor's office to this office, it gives us a lot more room. I didn't realize how nice that would be. Especially with this pandemic or virus.
It does give you a lot of room.
Well, we're close enough to 10 o'clock, I guess. We'll continue from mandate discussion.
Okay, I'll talk, because I like to talk, I guess. So, we received a couple of things via email. One, I believe Haley sent us.
Is that the court one from Julie?
Well, and then the one from Julie.
Oh, the other one was come from Katie Cox.
Yes, this was from Katie, and this was like 34 pages, of which page 4 and 5 is what alluded to the mask mandates, but that was updated April 9th. The one with the courts was updated May 14th, which is more recent. And I might add that we've always kind of followed the lead of the court system. And did you guys get a chance to read all this? Okay, good. So, has anybody else seen this from Julie Hasinius regarding the courts? I see one head nodding.
Security committee.
Two, yeah, okay, all right, very good. So basically, stating that personal protective equipment, face covering says fully vaccinated people entering court-controlled areas are not required to wear face coverings, and thus the face mask or face shield requirements in paragraphs 4 and 5 of the Supreme Court's amended November 24th, 2020 order do not apply to fully vaccinated people. And then it says signage in court-controlled areas, which in the past has been the whole courthouse, shall be modified to reflect this change. So, and then it goes on to say that the face covering requirements as per the paragraphs 4 and 5 of the amended November 24th, 2020 order otherwise remain in effect for unvaccinated people. Now, from what I gathered, it says all other requirements in the Supreme Court's prior to the COVID-19 related supervisory orders include physical distancing requirements remain in effect. You know, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. It goes through and explains what fully vaccinated refers to or unvaccinated. I think we're all smart enough to figure that out. So that's what it is with the courts. And that's kind of what I know. Input, thoughts, arguments?
Scott, you're waiting to say something.
It just looks like it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Volcano ready to erupt.
No, not at all, I was just enjoying it. So, Ron and I met with Katie yesterday in Kelly, of course, that's our regular deal. I thought she was gonna be here today. But that's okay, she's not, she's a busy person. So, and she knew about the court recommendation also, and the new CDC guidance, which has been all over the place for the last year, and about, you know, the one needing the mask and all this. The only problem I have with the enforcing the court one, where we're gonna make people produce a vaccine card. I can come in that courthouse and say I'm not vaccinated.
I've already got that. That's one I read from.
Or I can come in and say I am. And who's the police? So I'm also all about civil liberties and following what's going on nationwide. And I think we're to the point where we can make this back to personal responsibility. If I'm an employee in my office and 6 or 7 people walk in all at once and we're gonna have a meeting and I don't feel comfortable, I can throw my mask on. I don't have to tell them to put one on. I can protect myself. So I guess I'd like to see us head that way with the general public coming to the building is personal responsibility on their part. If they don't feel comfortable coming in without it, they should wear one. If our employees don't feel comfortable when somebody walks up to their desk, they should put one on.
Sheriff?
I agree with Scott in that. It's personal responsibility, personal, doesn't preclude from if you go to a private business and it says masks required, if you want to enter, you wear a mask. I think we should go with the recommendations.
Myra?
Based on CDC's announcement on, what, Thursday or Friday, between then and today's date, I think I've read many businesses, major companies across the country have dropped the mask mandate for customers entering the facility, and many of them are changing that option to their employees effective today moving forward also. And so my feeling, I guess, is pretty much similar to what Scott and Ron just said.
Okay, there's Katie now. But Melinda?
I agree with them. My girls are, they want it to be their choice.
Come on in, Katie.
I'm not for you.
Mr. Thompson, how is this gonna affect the courts if we just, basically leave it up to individuals to, if they're unvaccinated, to wear a mask? Or if they're, how are we gonna handle this with the courts?
We have not had court since the latest Supreme Court ruling came out, or Supreme Court order came out. But I imagine that the court in their areas on the second floor, when they're doing juvenile court and or magistrate court, and around the clerk's office, and in the clerk's office, and on the third floor in the courtroom, and outside the courtroom, I imagine they're going to try to enforce their order, which means they're gonna, I'm assuming they're gonna ask people if they've been vaccinated, and if they say yes, then they're gonna say you're fine. If they say no, not fully vaccinated, I guess I should say it that way, they're gonna say you need to socially distance and put a mask on.
So do we need to have any notice on the west door as people come in?
Well, the court order talks itself, it itself says that they're gonna have notices up in the court areas. It wouldn't hurt to hang that notice, whatever they come up with, downstairs as well.
Because it's been discussed through the security committee that essentially the whole courthouse is court area, if you will. I mean, that's why we got security down there.
Right. I don't know if the court would say that they truly control, the first floor.
Sure.
But would they say they control the areas around their courtrooms? I believe that they would say yes. And so, if there was some serious issue with something happening on the first floor, the court may say, now we're concerned about that. I think in this situation, though, they're going to try to enforce their mask rule however they choose to, in the areas that they control on a daily basis when they're in session. That's the third floor and the second floor.
Okay. So by
We're still
following.
gonna have to have masks. they're still gonna have somebody at some point ask, I'm assuming, you know, hey, are you fully vaccinated? I don't think that anybody's gonna have to produce a card, but that, the Supreme Court order didn't talk about how they would identify people. So I'm guessing it's gonna be, you know, something akin to the honor system.
Well, I guess the next question is, that's face covering, but what about screening? You know, when people come in, are we still gonna ask them the questions? Are we asking them to step forward and take a temperature? Katie, thank you for showing up.
Yeah, so of course with the CDC guidance just being released and we're in this recovery phase now, it opens up a lot of questions, you know, and everybody's kind of struggling through this as far as what's my best approach? How should we handle this? What's gonna keep our communities safest? So with Iowa, of course, we don't have a mask mandate law. There are certain regulatory systems, you know, like the judicial branch or these different regulatory systems that we do have to adhere to. Otherwise, you know, I think that's a good question as far as what all does that encompass in the courthouse with us having court sessions there and what will be required. I do know in, I believe, Buchanan County that they have made masking optional. And I think in Lynn County, they still have some restrictions. I was kind of going through to see what other folks were doing. But with this CDC guidance and this masking, you know, our numbers in our county are trending down. We're doing a great job at getting those vaccinations out. You know, we're overall looking better. But I think too, you know, we've got to keep, especially being open to the public, to really keep those best practices in place, or make sure that, you know, if this is an option that you guys want to look at, that we're offering those services, you know, to everybody, or maybe keeping some of those options in place as well. And so I think, you know, getting those departments together and really just kind of talking through it and what that looks like, you know, pending on those regulations, you know, we'll be able to kind of work it either way. You know, we keep those in place, or we start kind of slowly lifting some of those things.
Well, speaking from the security standpoint, Sheriff, I'm sure you're gonna hear from your security people here and at the courthouse. Do we ask if they're vaccinated or unvaccinated? You know, do we ask them to put on a mask if they're not? Do we ask them to, you know, for their temperatures and that list of questions? I can see a real can of worms there with your security people.
Oh, absolutely.
They're gonna have 101 questions. And so everybody's looking at this board for an answer. So, yeah. Tell me what you think.
I never asked Katie this yesterday, but I will now. Where do you believe we fall in under a HIPAA guideline asking somebody a medical question? Are you vaccinated? Do they have to answer, or can they just say none of your business?
You know, they don't have any guidance out for that, of course, but people don't necessarily have to share that information. You know, and that is an option. And I think that with the CDC recommendations as far as, oh, if you're vaccinated, go on about your day, you know, so it's really taking somebody's word for that. But I don't have any.
Well, here it states, judges shall inform attendees at the start of court proceedings that those who are fully vaccinated may remove their face coverings, leaving to attendees to provide for their own compliance. So
They're going
to ask somebody.
They're going to pose the question, and
yeah.
they're going to work on the honor system from the sounds of it.
Right, and so, you know, how do we extend that to your security staff? Because, again, they gotta go through them before they can get to the courts.
But if the rest of our administrative offices and department heads are fine with no longer having a mask mandate to the public coming in, it's when they get to the courtroom.
Right.
They ask it there.
But
They
we've
don't
always,
use the door.
always gone not only for the protection of our employees, but for the protection of the public. I mean, so that's a double-edged sword. You know,
I
Yeah,
think if
but
we-
things are relaxing across the country, so I'm back to personal responsibility.
but
I believe
Again,
strongly in that.
again, when they come through the door out front here, they just come through
But
and you
apparently
know,
I'm
we're,
special because I didn't get my temperature taken and I didn't get asked any questions and, because I'm an employee, so what's the difference? Why am I treated different?
don't know that. So,
And we don't at the courthouse because we come in and with the door.
Katie, I got a question for you. With the hospital up here, do they take temperatures, people coming in? They do,
Yep, we screen everyone.
even for doctor's appointments,
Yes.
oh yeah.
before you even get
Every
in there?
outpatient, everything we do before we let folks in.
Really?
We serve the vulnerable populations, you know, and so with the hospitals, I would imagine that these measures will stay in place for quite some time. But yeah, we screen everybody.
But the clinics don't do that, do they?
Yep, they screen right there at the door for your clinic
I was
appointments.
gonna say the clinics and the hospital in Independence is doing the same thing as well as Waterloo. I know the clinics, like, you come in the first set of doors, but you're not allowed in the main part until they come out, like temperature and do all that.
If anyone knows, what's the school system doing?
So, I haven't heard their final,
Well, Benton's leaving masks mandate the rest of the school year, but at social events or school, sporting events,
and
they
open
don't
that
have
up.
We're kind of split.
to. Benton Community Center Point don't have to have masks.
Benton does.
And I know we had put out our Board of Health recommendations, you know, and with us being later in the school year, you know, it opened up a lot of questions or concerns from both sides of this. And, you know, we felt, especially with those like public schools, it's a requirement, you know, we wanted to make sure, you know, and kind of finish out the school year and see, you know, see where we are at the start of next year, but.
Well, we've got pretty good representation from the courthouse here. Dave, what's your feeling at the door as far as screening?
I'm actually okay with, I still think we should do the screen. I think that we should allow folks in if they want to come in, but advise them of what courts require. And other than that, I'm okay with it. I don't think we should, you know, for instance, when we have district court up on the 3rd floor, I don't think we should let all those folks that come in for their cases, and, you know, and the attorneys I'm guessing will probably know, but I don't think we should spring it on them once they get to the 3rd floor. I believe in, you know, when you have some requirements like this Supreme Court order puts on the matter, let them know when they first come in, they're here for court, whether that's by signage or whatever. But then when they get up to court, whether it's the 2nd floor or the 3rd floor, I expect we're still gonna be, you know, the bailiffs, so to speak, court security is gonna be asked to make sure the folks are socially distancing and wearing masks unless they answer a question. And again, I think the Supreme Court order came out last Friday, we didn't have court on Friday, so, you know, the judges will show up this week and they will have it all figured out.
Melinda? What do you think about screening at the door?
I'm okay if they don't have, without the questions on that, because it's the honor system.
Taylor?
I mean,
I'm just acting as the board secretary today, so I'm staying out of it. Even though I'm keeper of the courthouse. Yes.
I'll make a recommendation that we lose the mask. We can put a sign there saying that it's recommended. I guess I'm okay with the temperature checks for now.
So what you're saying is that you would basically follow the CDC recommendations that vaccinated people
Well,
are
see, this is
allowed.
where I have the problem with is that I agree with Scott. It should be your
Well,
choice
but
and all that.
again, we're not gonna ask for their
Yeah.
card.
Yes,
But
so,
if you come in and you say, I'm vaccinated, I don't need the damn thing,
that's right.
then, and if you're,
I
You know-
would- I would say this, I'm all for civil liberties, but as the employer, you folks control this building, and you have the right to set reasonable rules to safeguard you, both your employees and the public. So that doesn't, when they walk in, it doesn't mean it's, you have every civil liberty that you might possess out in a public area, on the street or in their own home, it's different. And you folks can put reasonable, rules in place, and in fact, you've done that from day one, okay? So whatever you do, that's great, but, you folks, the Board of Supervisors, are responsible for the safety of the employees of the county. Department heads and elected officials are as well, but with respect to that building, you guys are kind of the final say, the buck stops with you.
well, I think it'd be a little confusing just to allow everybody in without a face mask when the courts are gonna require unvaccinated people to have them. And so I think the signage at the door, face mask required if you're not fully vaccinated. That makes sense to me. And then the temperature scans. I mean, that way it gives the security people, guidelines. We can't leave it gray for them because we know what'll happen. It'll be a storm. We all know what kind of storm that is. So,
So
But-
masks required in court areas.
as
and-
per the CDC
As per the CDC guidelines.
guidelines,
And then we'll continue with the,
unvaccinated persons, a mask is required. That's simple. I mean,
you
there
want
it
to
is.
continue with the temperature check at the door?
I would say so.
Okay.
I mean, that's what, it makes sense. So,
You're
that's
welcome.
what Tracy was saying regarding, the screening at the door. So, yeah, I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at, is following the guidelines that we've followed all along.
I think that's a good solution.
Gary?
I've got a couple questions. One, like myself, I've had the disease. I cannot be vaccinated now for 90 days.
But I think because you were probably treated with medication, isn't he protected due to that medication for that 90 days, Katie?
Kind of that immunity based on having the virus.
Okay, so how many other people that did not get vaccinated, that had the disease and didn't know it, they just didn't know it because they didn't have that great of symptoms?
And you can, we really were looking at that when we started vaccines so that that could help prioritize, because we knew the person that had COVID had some sort of coverage. And so with our vaccine not being in such a shortage with that, as long as it's okay with your primary care provider, we can get you vaccinated, before that time frame. That was kind of to help us make that determination, so it is an option.
And how many people need to be vaccinated before the disease goes into complete remission? Now, in livestock, it's about 80%. So if I'm vaccinating cattle, for example, and I have 100 head and I miss a couple, they get through the chute. I don't need to go back and get them because there isn't enough that got through the chute. The herd is vaccinated, it's done.
Yeah.
So, I've been told there's 20%. That's It could be 21, it could be 19, whatever. But we must be close to that level because the disease incidents keep going down now. And if that's the case, we're at the beginning of where it's gonna go away. That's my personal opinion, but I don't know if it's true or not. That's what I'm
I
asking.
haven't seen like final numbers as far as what that looks like. I know they're still tracking that and trying to make those determinations, but, you know, we've given over 20,000 vaccines in the county. But with those being the double doses, so if you look about 10,000. So we're more than halfway vaccinated in the county, which is really great. But yeah, as far as determining that, those numbers, yeah, that will be interesting to have that come out to see kind of where we're at. But we are trending down, you know, I think it's helpful too with the change of weather and being outside, and, you know, our community's done really, really great at, you know, taking these measures and these precautions, and just, you know, I think we're really fortunate for the community that we live in and the folks here, you know.
On the vaccinations that they try to keep track of, my question is, Katie, can you explain to me, I know a lot of people that went to Lynn County to get the shot.
Yep.
Did not even fool with Benton County.
Yeah.
They were behind the times.
Okay.
Did they get counted in Lynn County, or did that number come back to Benton
It comes
County
back
even?
to us. So we use IRIS, which is a state system, so everybody's put in there with their address, and so it credits back to us. Kind of like when we started with our essential workers, so those folks that may have worked at Mercy or Luke's or, you know, other organizations, you know, got their vaccine through them, but those numbers came back to us. We don't turn people away if they're from another county getting vaccines. You know, we've kept it open across the board, you know, looking for that common goal, you know, to get as many people vaccinated as we can, so. But we're credited with that.
There could be some discrepancy in the surrounding areas like Atkins. Atkins is in Benton County, but they could have an address, they could actually live in Lynn County and have an Atkins address. So there could be a few that way, but
Now, the Johnson & Johnson shots, some of the pharmacies in the county are not even, they have it, but they will not give it.
So we got 600 doses allotted to our county of Johnson & Johnson. And so as we got those vaccines come through public health, and then I work with our community partners on who wants to give. So we had that hold on Johnson & Johnson. And then, you know, with certain in our stock. But it is an option, maybe not at every one of our dispensing points, but I know we have some, and I believe Cornerstone has some as well, so.
Well, we're gonna beat this thing to
Yep.
death.
yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion that we follow the CDC guidelines and we post a notice on our doors that states that mask is not required for fully vaccinated people, and that we continue to do screening at our doors until guidelines come down otherwise.
What about the court system?
It's already spelled out here with the court system, and I think that pretty well complies with it. You know, so. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of, I'll let you read it again, the way you want to do it.
Did you catch that? Okay,
Okay.
I think she caught it.
All right.
Very good. From her eye, it's not resolution.
Yep.
Aye.
Nay.
Yep. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate everybody coming in.
At one thing. I'm still going to, in my office though, require, I don't still want a ton of customers in our time. I still want a social distance to some extent when I leave the screens up too.
Okay.
You run your office the way you need to run your office.
I think, really looking at those other mitigation measures is really important, that security.
So do you want signage on the doors?
Yeah, I think that's what my motion
Okay,
included.
so we need to have somebody make those signages.
What's that?
Somebody has to make them.
Who's made them in the past?
You email me.
My office usually
If
has.
you won't tell me what you wanted to say, I can make them up quick and laminate.
Yeah, because you have the laminator.
Yeah, just email me what it needs to say, for sure.
When are we gonna address this again?
Well, when it comes out, guidelines will change. We know they will. Because they've been changing every few
Is that
weeks.
effective?
You want that effective today
Sure.
in your motion?
Thank you. Katie, appreciate you showing up.
Yes.
Yes.
You're good.
Katie takes care of this.
Katie, I did email you back too, if I can get those in.
Yeah, I'll send those over.
And with the tent too, just an official invoice.
Okay.
That's what our auditors look at. Because I have
Sorry,
the
we're
link.
running over.
You have the write out that I have to
I
take.
want to be there when I get there.
Okay.
Whenever you get home.
I told him I'd call him.
Myron is next on our agenda.
Okay.
Sorry.
He wanted to stay for yours, so I put him on right before you.
Oh, boring. Usually when I get up, the room clears out.
And look at you, Nancy even wanted to come.
The young lady that came in. Oh, very good. I could,
Right here in the minutes, and Gallagher had a phone conversation with Travis at the juvenile detention center yesterday.
Mhm.
He wasn't jumping up and down. I don't know that he has talked to Tony about it yet.
Okay.
And we had to send the cancellation out on Friday. So Gallagher took care of that for us. And then I called him on the message for Tony to say, Gallagher's gonna be meeting with you for a vote. And then Amherst Nebraska County did the same thing.
I gotta sign
Okay,
it
so
too.
here's the minutes, and then they did get, concerned, I didn't want anything up here until Tony and Travis had kind of an idea what was going on, so.
Sure. Makes sense.
And we have 20 days to get our minutes in before.
One stamp won't cover them both.
I'm really strict with myself
Yeah,
that they go
because it says you
Thursday
signed
after
for
the
me
meeting.
too, you did it.
But I have the code section, it's like, I'm upset.
So I'll take.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
all right, Myron. Sorry about that.
Utility permit for Interstate Power and Light, sometimes it's known as Line Energy. They're gonna underbill on the Sitco poles on Highway 30. Between 13th and 17th, really, it's just west of 14th to just east of 16th, 14th, 15th, and 16th Avenue. They'll be going a little bit north and south of 30. So I've got a utility permit while they're doing that work. Everything's above ground and should be just
Okay. I have a motion.
So moved.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Secondary Roads has, I think, 2 mechanics that are going to be leaving our organization in the near future. One is planning to retire, is currently on work-related injury leave, but is pursuing retirement. Another one's accepted an offer on his residency and is looking to move out of the county. So I have been interviewing for mechanic positions. One of the ones I've interviewed who felt the strongest candidate, I would like to hire by the name of Grant Thessaly. Lives here in the county, starting wage is $21.44, and actually talked with him last week. He's ready to start next Monday, the 24th. So I've got a resolution to hire him for that position at that wage on that date.
Well, I'd make the motion that we do hire Grant Thessaly.
Second.
Resolution.
Primer, aye.
Beer shank aye.
Seaman, aye.
Southeast Benton County, we've had 75th Street closed east of 32nd Avenue for a bridge removal, box culvert that got replaced there. The rock got put on the road Friday. Still some seeding and some touch-up to do along the shoulders, but with the new structure, the old structure had a weight embargo on it. The new one will no longer need that embargo at that location, so I've got a resolution to remove the weight restriction at that specific structure site.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution.
Byron, yes it is.
Primer, aye.
Yes.
Beer shank aye.
Seaman, aye.
I cheated, I looked at the agenda. Sure, thank you.
The other resolution I have, on 17th Avenue in Big Grove Township. We have two bridges between 66th Street Drive and 8th Street, I believe, that each have an embargo on them. Farmer that lives in between those two bridges and farms that area is very restricted on how he can haul his grain in the fall. I talked to him 4 years ago. We put in an embargo on the bridge to the south. 2 years ago, we put an embargo to the bridge to the north. The bridge to the north is just over 20 feet wide. Because it's wide enough for two vehicles to pass each other on there, it's been evaluated and trafficked. Now, with the bridge that wide, many times it's probably treated as a one-lane bridge. If that north bridge in that 1.5 mile stretch were treated as a one-lane bridge, it would be legal for regular traffic. So, signing it as a one-lane road, I think with it's just over 20 feet width, that's probably typically driven that way. It's a rock road, there's not a lot of oncoming traffic. Signing it as a one-lane road would allow us to take the 23 tons, I think, for a dump truck, 37 for a semi, and 40 if you were pulling a wagon, tons. But if we treat it as a one-lane road, sign it as a one-lane road, it could have those weight limit signs taken off, and that farmer would at least have a north direction he could go with his semi with grain and not be restricted. So I have a resolution.
You put on the signage, one vehicle on the bridge at a time, is that what you do?
In this case, I think just taking the weight limit sign down and calling it a one-lane bridge and signing it as a one-lane bridge would suffice versus going through the sequence of signs, posting it the other way, with a rural road that's got, if you didn't look at the traffic, but probably 30, 40 vehicles a day, rock road. I think the likelihood of two vehicles meeting on that bridge and crossing together is pretty slim. That just signing it as a one-lane bridge will allow us to take the sign block and rural ag traffic through there, treating it that way, which is what they probably are doing, would be allowed to use that bridge, at least for the condition that it's currently at. Now, it's short enough span. I think it's a box culvert replacement candidate that'll try to keep on the list to consider replacing, that we'd probably get it replaced before we get the bridge to the south replaced. The south bridge is actually in year 5 of our 5-year program, but if that were to go that long without changing at least the north one with the lifting of the weight restrictions, is a number of fall harvest jet away for impacting his livelihood.
So moved.
And seconded.
Okay, resolution,
Bremer, aye.
Your second aye.
Seaman, aye.
That's all I have for you today. Other than, actually, after Judy gets done, I might utilize for business
Okay.
discussion.
Is it from Thursday night?
Yeah.
Yep, he gave us that, too, so I was wrong, it was on there.
It won't take long, Myron. Judy gave you the blessing.
I
so-
just heard her say that.
Yeah.
Not really my place to do that, but I just didn't want you to not do it because of me, so. I just-
Well, we have timed items on the agenda, and so I thought I would. Benton City Council did discuss 61st Street proposal last Thursday night. Chris Ward explained that he had been here, and that you had wanted a commitment from the city, not only for the engineering, but also for the project. Consensus of the city council to work on a 28E agreement and a draft resolution, do not only the engineering, but also include the road. The two issues Chris said at hand would be the timing and the budget for completing the project. The city council would like Chris Ward to work with myself on trying to get the details worked out on this 28E agreement. But the question I guess the city has is there a rush, immediate need for doing this fast and quick, it sounds like. So didn't sound like there was any action taken short term on the survey preliminary concept that was put forth between, or presented by two consultants, and outside of general support for the project, there was no commitment, I guess, for percentage or dollars, I guess, towards the project, both in the engineering survey proposal to start with or the project itself. So I throw that out there. I don't know, with the proposal that was presented, does any of the survey concept does the county want to move forward with that consultant aspect of that, or wait until there is a 28E drafted between the city and the county that would address all aspects of that project? I guess my request with the 28E agreement might be to talk to the city about some other things with some of the perimeter streets that we have that are shared jurisdiction that have just been I think general practice. One does the other, but it's never been really spelled out as to whose responsibility or expectations on either end. But I just thought if nothing else we could generally discuss that idea. I know that I think the plan here, at least on the 61st Street specifically, was wait to see what the city council had to say and then take action. And I thought the mayor mentioned that and Chris had meant, or I should say Chris, when he was here, was going to put it on the agenda and put forth your questions, which he did, but it didn't like any action was taken Thursday night on that. So
I point blank asked a council member what was the outcome. That reply was, at this point, the council is not going any further with the project. No money has been budgeted for anything. And so that's basically what you just said.
mm-hmm.
And so I personally would like to see what this 28E agreement, and get everything worked out. As far as that group that came forth, they knew that it was going to be an impossible task. That was their wish list to get it done by this fall, but it was pretty unrealistic. They knew that.
Down the road though, you could do the engineering, right? You and Ben?
Down the road, yeah, I should say.
Yeah, I mean,
starters, you know,
To
gather the survey information.
Might be still dependent on weather and scheduling. You know, there might be a benefit to doing that by the consultant at least at this point at their proposed cost. Now, doing the engineering, the concept, moving forward with that information could certainly be done by our office or some, engineering firm. If a short, quick timeline isn't necessary.
Well, the city of Benton ain't willing to put their 2 cents in, and I'm not in a hurry now either.
I know Chris had mentioned from the city standpoint that they have put plans together that are projects that are 2-3 years in the future, that they have went ahead and planned for them and engineered for them, but they were waiting until the budget financing is available. And, certainly having more information helps identify the exact project cost. But yes, to answer your question, I mean, we or somebody could put that together if a timeline is much longer than shortened.
Okay.
Which also gives you time to work on the 2080.
Yes.
So,
I mean, from a personal standpoint, just to have the survey information captured, it might still be worthwhile to have that done, which is a portion of that 15,000. It's not, that wasn't only what they were doing. They were gonna put some concepts together and put some design ideas together to ask about, to proceed with. But
Okay.
well, there's no action to be taken.
No.
So,
no, I just
yeah.
kind of bring you up to steam, I guess. Like I say, Rick had talked to a city council person, so he kind of knew, but I did want to forward what Chris's thoughts were when I contacted him yesterday, and we were emailing back and forth for a little bit yesterday afternoon, and I got that information that I wanted to present to you.
Was there any indication about what they're gonna do in the future?
They just don't have any money at this time, nothing budgeted. Now, does that mean that they can do it in the future? Yeah. Will they?
They can amend their budget as well, if
they wanted to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they were concerned as to, had to be done by September. That's what the request was, so.
Well, generally, government moves a lot slower than the public.
Yeah.
Have you started oiling yet on the county roads? The oil slicks that people pay for?
The dust control.
None of the dust control has
Started
been
yet?
applied yet. They're prepping things this week. I think Nutrient is got their product and hoping Mother Nature's probably not going to allow it at the end of the week. It'll probably be next week, but I know they have inquired whether they can get started.
Okay.
Once our crew has all of our areas for the county's dust control prepped and another prepping them kind of both at the same time, we plan to get started.
Okay.
Probably be next week. This week's weather doesn't look very accommodating for doing that.
Okay. And then wasn't a road closure sign put up last night, or not so much the signage, but blocking the road?
There was some temporary signage put up last night. The contractor is gonna put some additional signage
Okay.
up, or a barricade up there here shortly, so.
Okay.
I do have a question about the blacktop east of Blairstown. It's getting a lot more traffic. that railroad crossing is rough. I don't know. Well, I've been told that probably what'll happen is the railroad will fix that crossing this summer sometime while we got the detour around there. But I don't know if we can do anything about it, but it's awful rough. Just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not up to you to maintain the crossing, right?
No.
No, the railroad maintains that crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they do, they'd probably shut one lane down at a time. So.
On pavement, many times they shut the whole road down.
Would they?
When they worked on it the last time, they shut that intersection down or that crossing for 3 or 4 days, I think.
Well, that would bite, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well, they'd have to go west.
Yeah.
People would have to go west, but whatever. Just so you,
Mm-hmm.
just bringing it up so you know, whatever.
Heather, did you hear what you needed on the program?
I think so.
That means we need to make this up to some.
I think with your last one, detailing all that, I think all of the specifics are addressed.
I think it got worse yesterday, big time.
Okay, Judy, you're up.
What's that? Crossing that road.
Why?
It's not good.
Just broke
I
up.
can get from her, you're fine, don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Well, we ordered a, going to switching cruiser.
Okay, thanks for your time today. It feels like it's been forever since I've been here. It's been 2 years and it always rains the week that I come to Benton. I can't remember a year.
We want
The
you to
last-
come in August.
Yeah, we need it.
Okay, I'll try that. It's been 20 years and I do think a lot of years. So what you have in front of you or what you've seen in the past as far as how we do the renewal, all of this was approved by the Heartland Board last week when we had our May meeting. That's when they approve all of the renewal information. And as we've done in the past, all of your changes will be cut off as of May 31st. So if you get a new sheriff's car June 4th, it goes on the schedule, but we don't bill for that till the next year. Just like if you got rid of a car June 6th, it's gonna stay on there. It'll show a minus, but billing wise, that way you're not getting invoices throughout the year. Same thing. So we audit for property at the end of the year and we audit your workers' compensation. But just so you know, you'll get that letter from Jennifer probably this week saying get all your changes in and then she sends them to me and I'll invoice June 15th. So what we're looking at today is our estimates of where you are. Could have some changes because some of these schedules I got probably in April at some point in time. So as far as your premium credit, if you remember we talked about that. Heartland's been doing that now for about, I think 9 or 10 years. Your premium credit is approved by the board for this year is $41,246. So what the board approved in January was an all-around credit of $350,000. So you look at that and you go, well, that's 10 members, wouldn't that be about $35,000? Well, what that's based on is your claims on your self-insured products since 1987, and then the premiums you've paid in netted against that since 1987. So we've got some smaller counties that have had some rough experience, so they saw, $15,000 to $18,000 in their premium credit. You're a larger county, you've paid more because your exposures are greater, but that's why you're seeing something greater than $35,000. And then special acceptances, in your case, the landfill, 911, EMA, those folks got premium credits as well this year, and that's about $1,900. And then we were requested to go ahead and quote on Better Tomorrows. That moved to ICAP last year, so I sent that quote out to Erin, sent her an email to make sure she got it. She got it, didn't have any questions. So I don't know what ICAP's doing with their pricing this year. Unfortunately, with our special acceptances, you are seeing somewhat of an increase.
We are special.
Yeah, you are. I mean, in a good way. But you are going to see about a 10% increase this year, and that's totally what's been passed on from the reinsurer. So I would say I'm sorry, but after the 20-plus years I've been here, that's the first increase we've
Yeah,
had.
it has, you're right.
So it's been about the same. Now, your next sheet there is just a quick rundown of what your coverages are. We used to do the great big fat proposals that no one ever read, and they went to a file, and this way I thought, this is a little bit more to the point of what your coverage is. So in the liability coverage, you have a limit of $7 million. So that applies to your business auto liability, applies to your general liability, applies to your law enforcement liability. So it's per occurrence. Hopefully we wouldn't have that, but if you had something happen in the sheriff's office and something happen in the courthouse and something happen with a business auto, you've got $7 million per occurrence of coverage that applies to that. So your property coverage, we have $1,000 deductibles there. Do want to remind you, Rick, you've got it, you probably passed it on. Look at your values of your property coverage really carefully. Your sister county over in Tama got hit on the derecho a lot harder than you did, and they're having some challenges because they've got some buildings that were undervalued. So we just ask you, look at those. I know you did that last year. You increased the courthouse and I think this building. So I know you're doing that, but just another reminder. Again, in your liability coverage, we talked about the limits there. You've got a $1,000 deductible on your law enforcement liability and a $1,000 deductible on your public officials. So you all know what law enforcement liability would be, anything that's kind of going on in his department. And then GL would be typically slip and falls or what happens on the road. Somebody alleges that there was a big curve and the sign was down, that would be general liability. Business auto, that's easy, something's going on with one of your trucks or one of your cars. Your graders are equipment, so that would go under general liability if we had an issue there. Then your public officials liability, that's going to speak to your employment practices, that could speak to board decisions, that could speak to open records, open meetings type of thing. So that's what those coverages do. Your crime coverage there, that is not your employee fidelity coverage. That's a small coverage that the pool offers if someone should take money out of petty cash or if you have any securities or anything like that. That covers that with a $500 deductible and a limit of $25,000. Workers' compensation, as you know, is a statutory benefit, so that pretty much stays the same. Cyber coverage, tough renewal. So not one that was in one of my favorite minutes of Heartland's history, but what happened was we had all 10 counties fill out their applications for ransomware, hackers, that type of thing. And every county got kind of a different grade. So what I asked Gallagher to do was put together a letter for each county that would go just to that county. So Tama County doesn't know what Benton had and Cedar County doesn't know what Van Buren had. Everybody got their own letter. But then you also got some cumulative stats of out of the 10, where did everybody sit? So out of the 10, we got one county that gave approved answers on everything. And then the other counties, there were 2 or 3 that had this issue and 2 or 3 that this issue. So we are getting a lot of people asking questions as they go back and look at those questionnaires again. I will say this, I have kept this close to the vest wherever I've gone. You're my 5th county I've been to. Do you want to guess who the county was that met all the criteria the underwriters were looking for?
Benton County.
Yes. So, great to your IT people. He would appear that he filled out his application a little bit more correctly than some of the other counties did. But it seems like he's just really on everything. And so, great. And again, we didn't advertise that so that anyone would feel intimidated. But,
Now, do you say that to all the counties?
no, I don't. What I've been saying to the other 4 counties I've been...
Don't tell Benton, but you're ranked number 1.
Yeah, no, and so I was in Mahaska yesterday, and one of the gentlemen asked me, well, can you at least tell us where we fit in? And I said, I'll be really honest with you, I have the cumulative, and I have copies of everybody's letters, but I didn't look at them, because I did want to honestly say to people, I can't tell you what your issues were. 1, I'm not a cyber people, even if I read it, it'd be hard for me to explain. And 2, it's just better I can then be honest with all of the other counties. So I can be very honest with everybody. I know that there's some counties up there that only had 2 issues. I know there's some counties that had 4 issues. I know there was a county that had 8, I think. And that one appears they didn't fill out their questionnaire correctly. So I will swear on 10,000 Bibles, that's what I tell my kids, you are the county that had no issues. So we'll still be working on that renewal. Right now, that retention is really large. As a stopgap measure, the board approved for a $20,000 retention should we have an issue from July 1 to July 8th. It'll get revisited at the Heartland meeting on July 8th. So I cannot stress to you hard enough that your coverage doesn't start until you let me know. Because as soon as you let me know, then I call, I don't care if it's at midnight and you find out about it, I am with my phone 24/7, call me. Because the bad thing would be is if we had something happen on June 29th and your department heads didn't let you know till July 1st. It's a big world of difference on the retention in June versus the retention as it stands now for July. So just make sure your people know. If you even think that someone has tinkered with any part of your system, get it reported. I would rather report it and then come back to them later and say, oh, sorry, it wasn't, than have an issue with that. Equipment breakdown coverage, you also have your summary there at the bottom that talks about that. That coverage typically goes to, we pay the premium on that. Most of the premium goes to pay for when the folks come out to inspect your boilers or your large hot water heaters, those kinds of things. That's pretty much what that coverage pays for. In the 20 plus years I've been with Heartland, we've only had one claim under the equipment breakdown, and that was when power went out unforeseen and they lost a bunch of vaccines in a county that was probably about 15 years ago. Okay, so let's hit your actual renewal, which is the next sheet there. And what we like to do there is just show you a comparison of where you were last year versus where you are this year. Again, on the property and the liability, the market for insurance right now is horrible. It's just horrible. And then as Heartland, we've had, I think of the last 8 years for property, we've had 7 claims in the last 8 years. We've had 2 or 3 fires. Most of them have been wind and hail losses. So got a huge increase from the property carrier. We had a good idea in January what could happen. I tend to be a really conservative budgeter, so I budgeted a little more than I thought we would need, and then we ended up needing it. The board is not passing those expenses on to the counties. That's why they feel they've kept the surplus the way it is, because they knew we were going to get some larger renewals. So your rates have not changed. What's changed on here are your exposures. Your building values have gone up where you've added buildings. Inland Marine, just a little bit of change there. That's up about 3%, and that's an exposure change. The equipment breakdown coverage, again, that's what we used to call boiler and machinery. That's up partially because of the property values, and that then gets allocated out to the counties. So, it says 17% increase, but it's a $500 increase. Your errors and omissions, that's based upon your employee count. That didn't change. We had the same employee count both years in a row. Township coverage, that addresses your township clerks and your township trustees. Doesn't address any fire departments, doesn't address any properties. It's just the public officials for those township trustees and township clerks. It would also cover if you've got some township cemeteries, someone gets hurt out in the cemetery and we're found to be responsible, some gopher hole we knew about didn't fix, it would address that. But it won't address anything that township fire crews do or anything like that. Law enforcement. Your law enforcement is down just a little bit. Last year we had 50 3/4 people in the sheriff's department. This year we're down to 48 1/4. But you ask yourself, how do I get a quarter? So sheriff, deputy, all the full-time folks are counted as one person. Do you have a dog still?
No.
No dog, okay. So no dog. If you did, that would be counted as a person. If you've got half part-time people or reserves that are working over 35 hours a month, they're considered a half a person. If those same people are working under 35 hours a month, they're a quarter of a person. So you could in fact maybe have more people in your department, but if they're reserves or part-time people, then they're only counted as a half or a 3/4 or a quarter. So that's why that came down a little bit. General liability, your expenditures are up more than 5%. We'll go through that in just a little bit, but if you remember about 4 years ago, we went to averaging. We took your last 6 years and averaged those out. We throw out the highest year and the lowest year of your expenditures, then we average them out. Then we got the underwriter to agree that we would never have to report anything higher than 5%. So in your case, the last couple of years, your expenditures have gone higher than 5%, but they're capped. The reason why we did that is because we were just seeing, as people's budgets change, and when you look at your gross budget, then there's a lot of things that come out of that. Independent contractors come out of that, and the bigger Myron's budget is, even though his budget is bigger, it takes your net budget down, because his exposures are based upon the miles of road in the county. But then if you cut the engineer's budget, because you feel like you need to, well, that hurts your net budget because we have less of it comes out. And so that is the Genesis way of doing things, and that's why 4 years ago we argued against, this isn't right. You're really protecting the same exposure as last year, it's just the way the budget comes out. So that's why they agreed to that, and it's really helped us a lot, because then we know in January where you're gonna be. We talked about just a little bit, your workers' compensation, we'll spend more time on that. Your mod factor went up from a 0.90 to a 1.13. And then, of course, your payrolls are going up. You've got a payroll that went up about 8%. So when you add those two together, you're looking at almost a 33% in your work comp premium. Now, what helped is we use Iowa rates, and some of those rates came down this year, so that did help offset some of that. But we'll go through your mod factor calculation in just a minute. So again, your vehicles are about the same, payroll's up about 8%, and your mod factor went up 26%. So we'll look at that in just a second. You are at $7 million again for your liability coverage, and I apologize, I was having major copier problems, so some of you might have a copy that doesn't look so great. If you'd like to increase your premium limit or your expenditure limits, liability limits, right there on the left-hand side shows you how much per year that would cost if you wanted to increase from 7 million to higher.
Judy, what do you think they should be?
You know,
or do you folks make recommendations?
I typically stay away from that. I can tell you we've got one county at 10 million. We've got our lowest county at 4 million. They are almost a brand new board. And so we had a discussion about that last week. I think they're going to increase theirs. It's really hard for anybody to come in and say, this is where you should be. So we've got our 10 million as our highest county. We've got our 4 million as our lowest. We've got another one at 5. And so then the rest of the 7 counties all sit at 6, 7, and 8. So you're kind of right in the middle of the higher third. But it's hard to say, you know, I mean, somebody can argue, well, it's not really Polk County, so your exposures are not quite the same. But you have school buses can get hit. That's where you think, where there would be a lot of people involved. Or somebody's involved in an accident and thankfully they didn't get killed, but maybe they need some kind of care for the rest of their life. So it's hard for me to say, where do I think you should be? I feel comfortable telling this other county at 4 million, you're way too low, because there's a lot of people that have 4 million, you know, on their personal coverage.
The reason I ask that, not that it's gonna happen here, but I think it was in the news recently where whoever Lynn County uses, or maybe CRP, or Cedar Rapids, they had a police shooting that I think was set over for maybe $8 million, if that's what it was, I read the Gazette.
Okay.
Those things can happen.
Yep, and they can, and.
Don't shoot anybody, Ron.
Does?
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully.
You know, we all like to say it wouldn't happen. We had that happen in Van Buren County,
Yeah.
I want to say 10 years ago,
Yeah.
where the guy on the highway got shot, and that was.
And just for, you know, what's and giggles, if that did happen, you've got $7 million of coverage, what happens for the county with the remaining 1 million that they might be on the hook for if it was a verdict, for instance, it was upheld?
Yeah, then that's on the county. And one of our counties had that situation, this was before my time, I think it was about, Heartland's 87, I think it was 90 or 91, they had really low limits, and they had a bad accident, and the verdict was more than what their limits were, and so then they had to do some tax changes to take care of it.
I guess I look at it, how do you say it, 7, 10 million, one's enough is enough. I mean, they can sue you for $1 billion.
I understand, and that's the tough
I
part.
feel pretty comfortable with, you know, most counties being 6, 7, or 8. We're right in the middle. You know, I feel pretty comfortable, but good Lord willing, you know,
I
won't
think, I
have
think,
those.
if I could, I think 7 million is probably fine. I just think it's the type of thing you guys need to think about when you're deciding what you're renewing.
Yeah.
I guess I see Lynn County as getting more liability exposure because of the residents that they have.
A larger metropolitan area.
Yeah, but they're getting a lot of folks out from Chicago, and there's some things going on down there that aren't really, I would increase my limits if I was down there.
Well, but you get other counties, smaller counties like ourselves that have maybe meat packing industries, you know, so I mean, they're getting people from other places in as well. And so, you know, as far as Heartland's concerned in our counties, you know, but I'm comfortable where we are.
Yeah, I am too.
So,
And we provide those to you every year. So even if you had a change of heart and decided you wanted to go up another million, as long as you let me know by June 30th, we can take care of that for you. The second page of that just kind of shows you an allocation of the premium credit. You started at the 655, 757, and then we take the premium credit of 41,246, so your net premium's just a little bit above 614. And again, your work comp contributes that because the other increases like property and liability did not get passed on. And that's why you're in a pool. You know, the pool can absorb those market conditions for you and not be able to pass that on versus somebody that might be in more of a commercial market. The regular marketplace, you'd probably see an increase there. The next page is just a real quick graph just to kind of show you where your premium history is for your general liability. So 17-18 was the last year that we did everyone's just whatever you reported for that year. 18-19 is the first year we started averaging. So you can see there was a huge dip in your premium from 17-18 to 18-19, and again, that was Heartland board making the decision to start averaging that out. So you are climbing, and you're being limited to the 5% per year, so you're still not even close to where you were in 17-18. And then your next sheets there are your property schedule, your inland marine schedule, and your auto schedule. And I think Nancy does a great job of getting these out to your department heads so that you can look at those and update them as you feel that you need to. Right now, again, my concern is on everyone's property, making sure that your property values are where you think they need to be. Benton County hasn't finished. They've got 5 more buildings that need to be fixed, and I think 4 of them might need to be replaced. So we did ask the adjuster that worked on it last August to readjust those losses based upon building materials and how much they've changed since last August. They increased. They didn't increase as much as I expected, so I'm still not real comfortable about those. They're going to have a cement person come out and look at the cement, and if it's even they're able to rebuild on that cement. But so don't let the property values get too far behind of where you think they should be. I'll let you look at those for a few minutes if you want to.
No, it's fine.
How critical is the automobile value cost on those sheets?
So your auto is based on cash value, and the liability is the liability that's depending on the type of vehicle it is. Obviously, for sheriffs, their vehicles are going to have more of a liability than a regular personal passenger. It's the common collision, which is a small part of that calculation for each vehicle. We do have some counties that they just have a policy after their vehicle gets to be a certain age, they take the common collision off and just carry the liability. So that's up to you. And that's where the value comes in. But it is based on cash value versus your property is based on replacement cost up to a scheduled amount.
One more time on that?
Is there any option for the vehicles to be covered at replacement cost? That's
No.
just a pool decision.
Right.
After
Now,
cash value. Sorry, Ron, you're out.
the difference would be, though, if you remember right, all that equipment in your deputies' cars that's all covered as replacement cost. So we added that coverage, I don't know, several years ago, is $100 a vehicle per year, but they hit a deer and the car rolls and all the equipment goes out the different windows, however it gets all ruined, it's at replacement cost. So they may have paid $15,000 for that equipment, but to replace it's gonna cost $25,000. We've got the coverage for that. It's a $500 deductible.
Nancy always wants my budget figures every year, and obviously that's a big part. Can you explain, I've always wondered, what does the amount budgeted for have to do with the direct tie to insurance?
That is the argument I've made for years.
Okay.
And that's why I threw the 2-year-old fit with the underwriter 5 years ago when we were budgeting in January, and then people would do your budgets and they would be higher than we expected. Then we give you the renewal in May and there's a huge chasm. So that is what Genesis uses for, they look at the exposure, the largest part of exposure. It's what they do. Now, most of our special acceptances are on more of a minimum premium basis. So we kind of watch that to make sure someone's budget doesn't go from here to here and they get away from the minimum premium and they get more to a manual rating. So if it was up to me, again, I would say your exposures don't change that much. How many years in a row do you add any miles of road? You don't. So we know that that's gonna stay pretty static. Law enforcement is based upon how many employees you have. And then when we get to general liability, once we take their budget out, once we take the sheriff's budget out, you don't have public health, but the other counties that have public health, we take that out. Then we take out independent contractors, and there's another 3 or 4 other lines of stuff we take out to come out with the net budget. Special acceptances, the underwriter just wants, what's your gross budget? So again, you haven't seen any real premium changes for years and years and years until this year.
Right. Well, the reason I bring it up is I'm doing a lot of grant pass-through. And so that adds to my total expenditures, but I'm sitting in an office doing paperwork.
Right.
But yet the budget might be $70,000 higher for that grant pass-through than my regular expenditure budget. And so that's why I've always wondered why is that getting factored in as far as what my premium's gonna cost?
Right, because if she's got grant pass-throughs, they get netted out.
Okay.
So I would suggest, because you're still the minimum premium on both 911 and EMA,
Okay.
next year when you fill out your form, my budget's 1 million, my grant pass-throughs are 70 million, my net budget.
Separate them out.
Right, and then,
Watershed, for sure.
Okay.
yeah, and then what we'll do is just give the
Okay.
underwriter that information. I don't think it's gonna make a difference. The only reason time
That's
to make a
okay.
difference is
But I
if your
don't want
budget
it-
really went up.
Sooner or later, there's a point my budget gets to, if we keep doing more grant pass-throughs, well, I will be above the minimum premium with those. And if I can stay under that, then I should.
Yeah, I always say less, more is good.
Yep.
So.
Very good. Thanks.
Did you have a question?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Nancy, some of the figures that I've seen here on some of the buildings here that, I went over this here a couple months ago already, and I see 2 of the figures was not changed. Is it
Which
too
one
late
are
to
you
change
at?
some of them?
Which one?
And they're not numbered, so it'd be, the nature center for one of them.
That these are the changes that we got from Gallagher as of, and she's got March 1st there. So if a change came in April 2nd, Jennifer doesn't have it on the schedule.
Did it after, when were you in there?
I thought it was
It
early.
could have, well, I sent everything in as a packet,
Okay,
and there were some things that came in, and it could have gone in April,
okay,
but I will follow up and check on it.
okay. So that was one of the things, and like I said, the TP,
Where's the nature center?
I'm trying to, there's, pages are not numbered,
She knows
so.
that one.
What's the item number on it?
Yeah, that'll help you. 41, oh, excuse me, 42.
I'm good.
Oh, down here.
I believe that's a little high for that building.
The 630? You believe
Six,
that?
630,000.
You think that's high?
Yes, I think it's high.
Because we have the building and the content separate.
Right,
And then the garage is separate.
yep,
Okay.
that was my opinion.
Well, at least we have more. I mean, I guess if we reduce
Yeah,
it,
and
that's
then like
fine.
the dog pound, I thought, woofda.
They're
Which
making
one's that one?
improvements on that though, right now.
$50,000.
What?
I don't think that's on the bid
Which
sheet.
item is that?
That's
Okay,
the very last on the property.
26?
46.
46.
That's been that way for a while.
Think you could put up a new building for 250,000 out there? I think I could.
Well, just a question that,
I'll look into those.
You want to mark?
Do you like the transportation building from now?
With it?
yeah, I'm the one
Yes.
that. We're not, to me, that, you know, if you're gonna hire,
Somebody, yeah.
if you're gonna hire somebody else, well, then you should probably have $1 million under
Yeah.
Valued than over.
And let's look and see the Gallagher Bassett. I'll make myself a note too to pull up the sheet on the
I
Gallagher
wonder, we
Bassett.
didn't keep that weed department one like that, do you think? Says the 1701 West First for the few moves. We should probably switch that around to
Markers, what those?
give him the old transportation.
Oh,
building and
that's
leave it.
Okay.
It could be that I'm not thinking.
Cause it's about
Okay, so we'll look at
$40,000.
what came in. Again, Jennifer sometimes gets behind and those are as of March 1st, so you could have since been more on that.
Right.
We'll look at that. We'll also look at the Gallagher Bassett. Uses Marshall Swift, which is a software program that looks at building prices and labor by zip code. So if you build a building A, like you wanted it in Benton County, but wanted to build the same building in Polk County, you'd probably see two different costs on them. So we'll take a look at that and see what it says on those two properties as well. And then, so your next sheet there is your workers' compensation. And what you've got, and we've been through this with you before, how this works, we've got your classifications, and Nancy's office prepares the estimated payrolls. We divide that by 100, multiply it times the rate, that's the rate we get from the state, and that's how we come up with your estimated premium. So your estimated gross premium, or your basic premium, is estimated to be $285,156. And that's this sheet right there. That's it, here it is right there. Keep that. So your gross premium is $285,156, and keep in mind, we audit this every year, so in July, we will get your actual payrolls for 2021, and you'll either see a refund or we'll have to see where that comes. Then your experience mod factor, we're gonna go through that in a minute, was 1.13. If you remember, that was 0.90 last year, so that's an increase for you. So that 285, once we modify it, becomes 322, 226. Then we've got premium discounts because you're with Heartland. Don't confuse that with your premium credit that we talked about before. That brings it down about 30%. So what turned out, started at 285, was modified to 322 because of your mod factor. Then your estimated premium is 226,444. So nobody likes to see their mod factor go up, but unfortunately you've had some tough experience in the last couple of years. And that's how that works. But thank goodness you've got the premium discounts from Heartland, because that brings that down another 30%. Then you've got a chart there that just kind of shows you what your history has been. You're certainly not as high as you were a few years ago when you were at 1.17 and a 1.20. And last year it was nice to deliver that renewal to 0.90. But we've had some of those losses that matured, and then our 19-20 year is kind of a tough year. So the next thing I'm going to run you through is the mod analysis. And there's lots of numbers on this. If you were with a regular insurance market, the NCCI would calculate your mod factor for you, because since you're with a pool, we don't report that to the NCCI. So I purchased a software program out of a place in Wisconsin called Mod Master, and we put in all the same information. They've got all the same actuarial calculations the NCCI has. So we feel really confident that if you, again, were in the regular marketplace, your mod factor would be pretty darn close to what we're working on here. So I'm going to take you through some numbers, and then we'll get to the pictures, which I think is helpful for all of us to see what's going on. So if you look at on the first page on the top, in your 17-18 premium year on the top, and you look at column 5, your expected losses are $107,554. So if you want to circle that, you can kind of look at that number. Right here, you've got this number right here, $107,554. Now, draw an arrow then to column 10, and you can see what your actual incurred losses were 145,000. Here's your column 10, and here's your column 5. Yep. You can't see very well when I'm upside down. So you can see why there you've got more, if you had a 1 mod, considering that was average, well, you're quite a bit over what they expected. So if you would have been right around 107, we'd be looking at kind of a 1 mod there. Now we look at the next year, 18-19. Again, column 5, you've got 116,500 is your expected loss. And you do your little arrow all over again, you've got $14,553. Yay! We like years like that. Then we get to 19-20. And we've got expected losses again, circle that of 119,223. And we do our little arrow and we compare it to column 10, where you've got losses of over $300,000. So you can see what happened. We think that what you lost a not so bad year. You've got that middle year that's really good, and you've got 2 years on either side that aren't so great. So if we go to the very last page, which is really the best page, because I think that's really the best way to be able to see what's going on. The top column there with the green columns, and it doesn't let me put in the premium discounts. So think all these numbers are 30% high, but your rated premium is $322,226. If you would have had a 1 mod, you would have had $285 as your rated premium, and you can see that on your other sheet before it was modified. Your minimum premium at 0.65, meaning you had relatively no loss. You wouldn't have to have no losses, but they'd all be really low. Your minimum premium is $185,000. So what we say is our controllable premium is the difference between your minimum and where you are currently. It's 0.48. So that's what happened with and we kind of talked about it last year because we're always looking a year ahead. If you remember, we did the Zoom call and we knew we were going to have some issues. Now, the chart then below that, the green columns are your losses, and the goldenrod columns are where you're expected to be. So for 17-18, you can see green's a little bit higher than the goldenrod. Then you can see for 18-19, big difference, green is smaller. I just want to see what those look like. Very interesting. My life, so interesting. And then on the 19-20 year, you can see there's a big difference between the green and the goldenrod.
Over double.
Now, we've also had some maturing of that year. It's gone up a year here under 289. It's right now about 295. So what's going to happen is when we look at next year, we're going to lose this first year. And you're over, looks like you're probably about 120,000. So right now, as of our 2021 year, which doesn't figure into this, but we'll figure it next year, you're at about 75,000. So that's less than the year coming off, which is a good thing. So it doesn't appear that you're going to be affected a whole lot by the maturation of 1920, because you're already up there. It's going to only go up a few thousand more dollars. And some of that are on those higher claims. And it doesn't affect you as much as the lower claims when you've had a frequency issue with the low claims. So we should see, again, knock on wood, don't hold me to this, but your mod factor could come down a little bit if we stay about where we are for 2021. Because we're still less at the about 120, which is what you're getting rid of. So that would be the whole. And some of those losses, as we look at them, you know, we want loss control to be out here. You're probably familiar with Chuck Goodman. He passed away earlier this year. So we've got a new loss control team, and we're trying to get them up and running. Gallagher hadn't allowed them to come out to see people, and now they're opening that up so that they can come out. I expect in July, we're gonna have about a half-hour presentation from them. We're gonna go through a lot of data, so that you all can understand what they're working on. So I think that'll be good. Because I think the last 2 meetings I've been kind of hurrying them through, and so now I need to give them their time in the sun. But anyway, so they'll provide some loss information. And some of your losses that are fairly high, you know, you can look at loss control. How could we have stopped that? And it's always so easy to say after the fact what we could have done differently. So by comparison to other counties, I'm not speaking out of school here, you're certainly not, you don't have the highest mod factor in the count, in the 10 that are in the pool. You don't have the lowest. We've got somebody that's in the 60s this year. So they were quite happy with that. So it's just something we keep working on. We keep having the loss control people in here and do what we can to make sure people understand about their expectation for working safely. Any questions on any of that? It's kind of quick to go through that for you.
I guess I'm concerned that if we don't raise our
Your liability limit?
our total coverage by like 4% or 5%, that we're gonna fall behind as time goes on.
Are you talking about your property coverage? Yeah, your property coverage, you know, the good thing to compare it to is the Gallagher Bassett numbers, and I can resend those out so you don't have to look for them, Rick. That's a good comparison, but that's where we really do caution people, don't let those numbers get too far away from you, otherwise you get a good chasm. And we have what we call a margin clause. So let's say you've got a building, we'll make it easy, you've scheduled it for $100,000. Tornado comes through, adjuster comes in and says, okay, to replace that building in like, you know, stories, like kind, everything, it's gonna cost $130,000. And you scheduled it for 100. So with the margin clause, we have another 25%, but there's a calculation we go through. The whole 25% isn't always available depending upon what the adjuster says and what it comes out to. So in that case, building gets blown away because of the tornado, and you schedule it for 100,000. Adjuster comes out and says, yeah, to replace it with like kind content, blah, 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 is gonna be 140,000. You'd have up to 125,000 towards
So
that.
you got 15,000.
Now, if the adjuster, you've got your $100,000 and the adjuster says, yep, that can be replaced for 110,000, you're within that 25 margin clause. You don't get the whole 25%, you get what it took to get you to the same building.
I'm just concerned that if we don't raise it at all, that eventually we're gonna be low.
Yeah, and you could be, depending on the building. Now, you did increase your courthouse last year, and you increased this building quite substantially last year. And that's,
Do we have to have insurance on that building?
Yes, I thought we discussed that earlier.
To who building?
Oh,
No.
The new transportation building. We discussed that.
It's covered,
Foundation fee.
450,000. See, we had a special policy when we were under construction.
I'm gonna ask you that.
oh, yeah, the builder's risk.
Yeah,
And then once it's transferred to you right now, right?
right?
And it's, have we added it to the schedule?
Yes.
The transportation building?
450,000.
Okay. Okay, yeah,
Can we
and we just,
replace it for
But
that?
it probably is not gonna show on this chart, 'cause this was.
As of today's market, probably not. But like I said, there's,
as long as Jennifer.
I might have
I ain't gonna mention names since we're being recorded. We got another company in the it'll cost you
There's too many in Powell's.
probably $1.5 million to replace it if
That's
they
what I was
do
gonna
the
talk
work.
to him about, Haley.
So, to me, insurance is, you gotta have enough to bring you back where you was. You're not gonna make money on insurance,
No.
so,
Well, I've handed that list in, and had it reviewed, et cetera. And you can't keep up with trends in the market.
no, you
And
can't.
you'll drive yourself as well as the insurance people nuts if you're trying to change things constantly. Cost of concrete goes up, cost of wood goes up, or goes down, it just, yeah.
But
But Gary, there's another thing that you gotta think of, that I know a guy that's dealing with right now, and he's trying to get me involved with it, but he had a building insured high, and it's got 3 sides and one side of the roof's damaged, all right, so he's got it high. The insurance company says, we're not gonna tow it, you can fix it for what we got, what you have it insured for. Well, the guy wants a new building. So now the big argument is, who's gonna win? Well, it's gonna be the insurance company, because it's cheaper to fix it than pay him what he actually had it insured for.
Well, I'm not advocating a big increase, but I think we gotta be careful that we don't fall behind with.
That's why I bring that out every year,
Yeah, yeah.
to look through, and that's why I pointed out some obvious ones.
Yeah,
And so,
and realistically, not picking on Myron, but I mean, some of the maintainer sheds, I don't think you can build them right now today for 50,000.
oh no.
Probably not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
that's where they're.
there's a starting point.
Sure.
Yeah,
But that's what most of them are insured at right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
So we asked you to look at those. Again, Tama's got a couple of buildings that are just way undervalued, and they're looking at possibly combining some buildings that would help them with their costs. And I said, well, let's work through Genesis on that. Genesis is our reinsurer, so that we make sure we don't want them to do anything and then find out later we messed something up because we didn't replace it with like kind. So that's what we're working with that. And keep in mind too, I know we've had some boards get concerned that Heartland's just trying to drive the property up so that more premium comes in, and realize no one gets paid commission on that. And really, when you're paying your premium, and when we do your calculation for your premium credits, it's based on the premium you paid in, netted out against the losses you had. So that's why we see the premium credit up and down for everybody depending on what they've paid in and what they've paid out. So when you are paying more for your property for that coverage, keep in mind that is going towards your surplus. Any other questions on that? Okay, so I just need to get your authorization to bind by June 30th. If you want to do it today, you can. If you want to wait till it's on an agenda later on, you can do that too.
Do you need probably board action on this? Correct? Okay. Well, then I would make a motion that we go ahead and bind that insurance coverage.
For 21-22.
That is correct.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you for working with Heartland for another
Thanks.
year.
Pass that
And,
down.
We've been together as a group since 1987, so it's been a long-lasting kind of thing. And-
One meeting I do enjoy going to.
Oh, good.
All
All the fireworks.
Well,
They had food there, huh?
yeah.
No,
And you're great to work with too.
They had, Krispy Kreme last time, so,
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we don't have the roll lady anymore.
yeah.
oh, from the one that brought him in the collages? That one?
No, those ladies we have a roll lady that she used to do the rolls at the sale barn.
Oh.
And they're the closest thing I ever tasted to my grandmother's rolls.
Are you gonna do the September seminar?
Yes, September 16th.
Okay.
September 16th is the seminar, the
Got that.
fire practices.
September 16th.
I did this worksheet,
Oh,
so I
is
have
there
it.
training
That's
money?
where she got
Well,
it.
that's what
Yeah.
she
Safety
did.
That's
days?
why I
All
wanted to
vacationers.
look at it.
Did we go?
16.
It's probably in the lard.
It's usually a Thursday.
Sale
It's
barn
Thursday.
I was gonna say, it's usually a
The sale barn
Thursday.
And
ladies
we're hopefully
roll
having it
is
at
probably in
the
lard.
nature center. They're like draining their lake or something. So they're doing a bunch of work at the park.
Otter Creek.
Yeah. So thank you again. I apologize, this took longer than anticipated, so I apologize. I'll head out and meet with Eric at the landfill, get him taken care of. Things are going well out there that I know of, so.
Good.
5 down, I got 5 more counties to go.
Yep.
Thank you so much, thank
You
you.
can offer Zoom next time.
My package over there?
They
Oh,
are
my
in
gosh.
July.
Okay,
Stop over.
I'm thinking that probably we'll have that most of the time. I know Larry wants to get everybody there, but for Decatur, sometimes it's so hard to get them there. Janine, with her being in the field, makes it really hard from Fayette, so, you know, if we get the majority of people there, and the big decision at this meeting will be somewhere.
That's, I already said the one, I know we get a stop for some.
I got a whole bunch of
first.
Tracy,
And I'll
okay.
check for emails.
Or share that list with Linda, he said.
More or less.
John's got it on his
So,
computer.
okay, but thank you.
Good to see you, thank you.
Okay, thank you,
And then what I send in is what,
oh, and then,
But you need to talk to him about that other insurance.
Oh, it's coming up here first part of
The
June.
March 2020
First Thursday or
invoice?
something like
Yes.
that.
So I already
So,
told him
like I
that.
told Larry,
Yes.
because we wanted the increase that we weren't expecting,
you know, was
the reinsurer for the special acceptance,
That was current
that took
cost.
about. And then, since she's not on for the premium credits, so she wasn't insured last
6
year,
months prior to the
I'm
duration.
not sure that it's gonna be
I had
competitive.
bought that
I
equipment
have
for
to see.
Durango.
And so that's why they're questioning, because it was prior.
I had
to
an
the
employee
duration.
already text me that somebody made a comment to them for not wearing a mask if they weren't
I
vaccinated.
don't.
Thought we weren't
You know
gonna
what I'm
police
saying?
that, it was kind of at their
Right,
own.
that's,
Is that how you took it?
If they.
So,
Is that your own
thank you.
discretion?
Right,
here?
see you.
Yes,
So it
good.
doesn't
No,
matter,
no.
only for the court system for the mask, so
Right.
that person should not even matter what he said. Did you guys hear me when I just said, Rick?
No.
Your motion regarding masks, an employee already messaged me that somebody got on them
Okay.
for not having their mask and they weren't vaccinated.
They were
It's-
not.
Yeah, but it's for court only that the masks are mandated. Or you're gonna let the others pick and choose because otherwise you're discriminating employees, right?
Well, I went with the CDC guidelines that stated that.
But I mean, that's what you're gonna have is people are gonna be calling, "Oh, you don't have the vaccine. Yeah, so,
Oh, people stating that.
Yep, that's already happened.
Call
So-
and well, you're not vaccinated.
yes, it's already happened. It is our message. So do you wanna like readdress that motion? Like, remember how the department said it was at employees' will, but for courts, do they have to be CDC if the mask's on or not versus vaccinated people? Because I have a feeling that that's gonna get ugly.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Well, I don't know, what you said is, at the door, the
But
sign says, if
for a
you're
court.
not vaccinated, wear a mask.
If you're not vaccinated, wear a mask.
Right. And
And
if somebody's gonna
then
admit
you're-
they're not, then.
But no, I mean, nobody can police that to prove wrong or right.
But then it's, yeah, we don't have a vaccine police.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, that, I don't know if Scott's been vaccinated or not. If he says he has been, I take him for
Well, and
his
it's
word.
none of your business. I mean, he could have went back out of town and got it.
Right.
That's why we're putting a sign on the door, not
I
having
know,
security.
I'm just
You can
saying,
ask
I
the
already had
question, which
an employee
thankfully is
question.
we
Yeah,
identified.
well, you're gonna have that squabble constantly.
Yeah.
You know, if you say today we wear blue and somebody wears yellow,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't get the memo. I wore yellow. Oh.
Right.
And
So,
there are some people that are gonna say, I wouldn't get that shot if it was free. Well, it was free. So,
yeah, well, and I hate these things as much as anybody, you know? But I went through and I get a flu shot. I got this vaccination. I'm not trying to be part of the, you see some of those things on Facebook sometimes, you know, the Nazi type thing. Yeah, I'm not worried about that, you know? So, no, I left it as it is, according to the CDC. And if somebody wants to piss and moan publicly, you know,
We got deputies by the door.
it's gonna happen.
By the way, don't want to foment any revolution, but as an employer, you could require your employees to get the shot. If employers have that ability.
You know,
I think that would go bad.
No, I'm not saying you should do that, I'm just saying, some of this, you know, folks don't have to tell you, whatever. As an employer, you can inquire on basic office safety
and
matters.
I sat on one board where they were paying their employees to take and get the vaccination. And those that had already gotten it, they went ahead and paid them for getting it. It's like,
Wow.
yeah, where the heck do you stop?
Maybe that's American
Yeah.
Relief Fund.
I think
So,
you should, like Ohio, you should have a lottery. Everyone who's been vaccinated,
You
their
guys are journeying.
name goes into a hat.
I'll make that motion.
He already did.
Right.
You'll
Oh,
second it?
second it.
All in
You
favor?
adjourn?
Aye,
All right.
Gary did.
And there's